All right, folks, welcome to Nino's Corner.tv. This is going to be made for YouTube. I went over the rules and regulations in the dressing room with 𝗪𝗓𝗓. So keep the punches high in case of a knockdown. Run to the neutral corner before I start the 10 count. All right, let's get into this. Jason, man, there's so much to talk about, and I know you're a huge proponent a proponent for simulation theory. Now, I just had David Wilcock on. We talked about pyramids on other planets. We talked about ruins on other planets. What is the disclosure that's coming really going to be? Is it going to be aliens? Is it demonic entities? Deities? What is this going to be? What is it going to look like? Is it nefarious? I believe it is. There's so many directions to go with this. So Jason, thank you so much first off for joining me.
Yeah, man, it's always a pleasure, and these are exciting times, and the topics, the subject matter. You know what? You have to go with your intuition, David. You're a smart guy. There is nothing in this world that will bring together opposing political systems faster than an outside threat. Nothing.
Right.
And I am on board with the whole narrative of an alien invasion scenario. I'm on board with that, but I don't believe in ancient aliens. I don't believe that any of the architecture that we have found. I mean, I know you follow me a little bit, and you know that I have called out the entire ancient aliens community for a discussion.
Well,
Or
I
a
know that
debate.
the whole
Or a
reason
debate.
the whole reason it's on television right now is to pre-program and condition people into what's coming. But before
Absolutely.
we but before we get into this, let me knock this out real quick, folks. Get your gut cleanse protocol. Get your gut cleanse protocol. Speaking of digestive issues, this is caused by potential toxin that's in all the quote healthy foods that scientists have been telling us to eat with the fraudulent food pyramid for the longest time. It seems like everything's fraudulent these days. And this potential toxin causes digestive issues, according to Dr. Gundry, a world-renowned cardiologist. This is affecting millions of people nationwide. Warning signs include weight gain and fatigue and digestive discomfort and stiff joints, even skin problems, folks. Well, Dr. Gundry explains these side effects are often mistaken for normal signs of aging because digestive issues develop usually over a matter of years and sometimes even decades. I can assure you that the damage is probably caused by these healthy foods you think you're eating, and it's far from normal. The good news is you can easily help fix a problem from your own home. It's very simple. You just have to know which foods are actually healthy and which contain the hidden potential toxin. Go to gutcleanseprotocol.com/Nino. That's gutcleanseprotocol.com/Nino and get started today, folks, and start cleaning up your health. All right, let's get into this. This is exciting stuff because I try to leave no stone unturned. You know what I mean? I'm trying to figure it out. I'm a very curious individual. I feel for a boxer, I'm pretty smart, you know. Hey, yo. But Jason, I love the simulation theory. It's probably what resonates with me the most because I can't seem to figure out if the earth is sphere, obtuse, flat. I can't seem to figure out outer space, planets, aliens, demons, fallen angels. I feel like this is all part of a program.
Yeah. Over 90% of all UFO and UAP activity is always seen coming in and out of bodies of water. Sometimes deep valleys and mountains, Appalachian Mountains and Rockies are areas of high concentration of UFO activity. So far to date, not one single piece of footage has ever surfaced showing a UFO entering the atmosphere. So there's I have told you from like 2.5 years ago when we first
What do you
started
mean entering
talking.
the atmosphere like a shuttle? Because
Yeah,
it seems like,
we have nothing on footage that actually shows a UFO entering the atmosphere. They're always coming out of the
but
ground.
we do have they materialize and dematerialize.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. They
Right.
do.
So that's what
They do
happens. So it's dimensional, interdimensional.
phase in and out. That's right. So if something requires to phase in and out, then it kind of makes you wonder what's beyond the atmosphere. I mean, why is there no travel out there? What's really going on up there? I mean, we know these rockets are hitting a body of water. We've seen the footage is amazing that's out there for these Tesla rockets. When they hit escape velocity, instead of escaping, they hit a barrier. And it's and
Agreed.
it's
I
and it's
see that. My eyes are not deceiving me. I know what I'm looking at.
yeah,
It looks like it's hitting a lake, like silicone or something. Like there's kind of like like ripples in the sky.
man, it's crazy. It's crazy. I don't want to speculate too much, but I mean, if we were to pull information from the ancient past, all of our predecessors, every race, every culture believed that we had a watery atmosphere. So this changed over, thousands of years and centuries. But all the earliest cosmologies all said there was an ocean above and an ocean below. Now, when it comes to this whole paradigm of alien invasion, we have to understand that the majority of our military expenditures are all underground. The U.S. Air Force is massive. Their budget is tremendous, and yet the majority of their money is spent on these giant machines that are building tunnels. Those tunnel makers for those underground facilities all say U.S. Air Force. Many people have seen the pictures. So it's just the same thing. It's the same thing with Space Force. Everything is inverted to throw you off. We have NASA in 1957 that comes out because they needed to have an engine of deceit in place because they knew we were getting more technologically advanced. People were going to start waking up. So several things were released basically at the same time. One of them was UFOs of the third kind. Close Encounters of the Third Kind was a intelligence operation that was specifically released on the public because they had to have a reason to give the public something they could look into, because more and more females were claiming to be abducted, and under medical analysis, it was found out that they were. Something did happen. There was surgery. These women were returned back to their beds, but some of them under hypnosis had remembered some really weird stuff. So under hypnosis, many of them were put in rooms where people were literally dressed up as aliens, little green heads and all that. But some of them still remembered even deeper, and they saw beyond the light. They saw men in just regular black suits, and every once in a while, somebody in solid white, like a medical doctor. And this has been recorded over and over and over since the days of the book The Threat in the 80s. There are many books about the alien abduction phenomenon, and all the evidence points to a massive operation that's being done underground laboratories. These people, it's a technology that's more sophisticated than the private sector even knows exists. The ability to pull people straight out of their homes they believe they're going into the sky and UFOs are taking.
And they're going through the roof, so they're dematerializing themselves and then rematerializing. If they're actually going through a roof or a doorway, they're walking through it, correct? Or they're getting pulled through it like a tractor beam.
Yes, Dr. Roger Leir published a book called Aliens in the Scalpel. You can't refute this information. He has found implants in females, and it's amazing. Under camera, he shows with his scalpel that it's like they have AI. They know when they're about to be extracted, and the implants move under the skin to get away from the area that's being in surgery.
What's your thoughts on L.A. Marzulli, who says that these abductions are stopped when someone says, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus Christ," or when he was trying to find a certain insert or uh, uh, an implant on somebody, he prayed over it and it appeared immediately. What's your thoughts
Okay,
on that
I'm going to tell
aspect
you.
of this?
I'm going to tell you right now that the fear that those operatives in the construct have isn't toward any specific deity or the name of a deity. It is the immortal within. Even in the 14th and 15th century, when several people panicked because there was lights in the cornfield, and all of a sudden a ring appeared in the cornfield, and they had these legends and traditions of the mowing devil. And the children would come in terrified, saying they saw green elves in the cornfield. And the adults would run out there and they would see this ring, and there would be entities out there. And every once in a while, you would get somebody go out there, and they would just under the old Odinic code, they would sit there and say it doesn't matter what the person's belief system is. It's that they believe that there was a power that could be tapped into, instantly banishes whatever it is. The same thing in India with the Rakshasas. When the Dravidian people come into contact with a Rakshasa, a shape changer, and they see a human that is attacked, there are members of those communities in India, not all of them, it's rare, but there are members that will fight those Rakshasas. They'll go out there and they will speak in the name of Brahma, Shiva, whatever, and it'll vanish. I'm not taking away from the Christian tenet. I'm actually,
so wait a minute. So what you're
my
saying,
background is Christian. But what I'm saying is we're all immortals enjoying
right?
this construct.
But intention, right? So by projecting that intention and showing your power is what's making them flee.
Yeah, to an extent. What I'm really saying is that the oversoul is bigger than any one religion can contain. And once you understand how beautiful the creator actually is, and that the creator is so forgiving that he doesn't give a damn that you have misconceptions, that you've been miseducated, that you don't have a really good idea about what the oversoul and the co-creator relationship is about. He doesn't care. But when you make the effort, you're honored for that. When you buy into fear, you're honored for that too, because fear follows you, and what you fear is going to attack you.
And magnify.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I know people that get attacked by, that it's, many times have been attacked by demonic, entities or haunted houses. Or I know there's this one girl I know that, every house she stays in, there's a spirit following her that attacks her house, and she's like, I just don't understand. I don't understand. And to me, it's because she's amplifying it, magnifying it by showing the fear and by bringing this into her life. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, she's in a feedback loop, and I call that dungeon programming. A feedback loop is absolutely self-perpetuating by your behavior. The construct honors what you do repetitively, so it creates that world for you repetitively. She needs to break pattern. Once she breaks pattern, does something different, comes back with a different attitude, that stuff will stop.
Yeah, I agree with you. Totally agree with you. So let's talk about this a little more. So this disclosure is coming. The government's going to use it as an alien invasion to either unite the world, or they're going to come and to fight the alien threat, or unite us or they're going to act as our saviors. Is the way I understand this. They're going to play. I don't know how they're going to play the card or the way they're going to play it. Maybe they're going to save us from World War III. But I was just watching a Jordan Maxwell video talking about interpreting the Bible, basically. And he was saying that, in the beginning in Genesis, it says they made us they made humans in their image, plural. Let's make them in our image. And he tended to believe that these beings or deities were making human beings for certain reason out of hominids or homids, whatever, and that basically they were using humans for a slave system or whatever, but they made us in their image, and we've been intercepted by other beings that have come here and genetically modified us and played with our genes, which would be aliens, right? And that there's going to be some kind of spiritual war coming between these alien forces, between the ones that could have come here and intercepted our DNA and done this with it and done that with it, and fight with these other aliens that believe that they've made us in their image, that are coming back and take back with basically like we're their property. Does this make any sense to you at all? Does this sound?
Yeah, it does. It's 100% the narrative that was promoted by 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗍 in the Earth Chronicles books. 𝗧𝗵𝗶𝗍 was educated by the CIA in the London School of Economics, the same place where Graham Hancock went. Listen, I don't buy into any of that. None of it at all. It is all psyop, and it's all preparatory to what's coming. Alien invasion is on the table, but in order to do that, they need the Ancient Aliens franchise. They need all these people putting out History Channel, putting out all this BS, because the agenda is very clear, David. It started in 2020. The agenda isn't what you think it is. It's just the opposite. In 2020, not only did they start all that, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just, we already know. It goes without saying. But in 2020, they began the final countdown. This is the entire plan. The entire plan is to bring public awareness to how evil and nefarious and how hypocritical and how trashy every NGO is, every politician is, every actor, everybody in the public arena, All the government organizations, it's by design. They want to throw it in your face of how corrupt everybody is and how they're
So
all
that we
working
start
together.
over.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's absolutely to get the entire world's population so sick of all these governments and all these hypocrites ruling over them, and everything's unfair, that the only thing that will fix it is an outside force that comes in and stops all the infighting, stops all the war, stops all the stabbings. Stabbings have increased by 555% in Germany, Norway, Sweden, especially France, all over the UK. This is a massive amount. There's always had knife attacks in areas that have taken their guns. Any country where guns have been removed, knife attacks are more prevalent, but we've never seen it like this. It is highly concentrated. Knife attacks are going on a daily basis in white Western nations right now, all over the world. And it's all migrants, and it's all being attached to migrants and Muslims. Every bit of this, most of it, mainstream media is just whitewashing it, but alt media is picking it up. It's everywhere.
So you're saying so obviously it doesn't matter. The Second Amendment in America matters a lot, folks, because how much has it increased in America? I'm sure it's spiking as well.
It has increased, but it's places like L.A. It's places like it's liberal strongholds. It's places like Chicago, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, New York. It's places like that. Miami-Dade area. Yeah, the knife attacks have increased, but it's
so you're saying that cause as much chaos as possible. So when these beings come forth to fix everything, we accept them with open arms.
Absolutely, because the whole agenda is to get human populations to absolutely completely give up on any idea that other humans can govern us. Everything's in a state of collapse. So the ancient aliens narrative is on an intelligence agenda. That's what they're doing. They're promoting all this stuff. That's why I always want to debate them. I'm always calling them out because it's just silly. Of all these things they claim are it's all of human manufacture. The verse you cited in Genesis, in the beginning, God created man in his image, male and female, he created them. That whole passage right there, that tells me something different, David. It tells me that inside this beautiful construct that we're here to experience as prodigal sons, on the outside are humans too. So that's what it tells me. If God made us in our image, and genetic manipulations are a thing, we can tell. We know enough about genetics to know that humans did not naturally evolve here. We are a manipulation, and we have a lot of different mammalian and reptilian DNA that has been inserted. We were built, we weren't developed. So, yeah, I agree with all that. But I see humans on the outside making the necessary avatars for those souls who are going to experience what it is going on the inside of this construct.
So to me, just even the thought or the conversation that giants once roamed this land and may still do. That there's many excavation sites that they were reporting these in newspapers in the 1800s and 1900s, that they were excavating sites and pulling up bones of people that were 10, 12, 15 feet tall, that these people did exist. What's your thoughts on that? To me, it obviously throws a monkey wrench in evolution.
Of course, but I'm an author of 17 books, and you know that one of them is about giants, called Giants on Ancient Earth. It's gigantic.
I did not know that. I did not know that.
So this I'm absolutely on board with giants, but it wasn't angels, it wasn't aliens that came and had sex with human women. Genesis chapter 6 does not in any way allude that an extraterrestrial species came here and had sex with the daughters of men.
Well, they found our women favorable. I thought that's what it said. They've
okay. I get it, but it specifically says that before the flood, it says the sons of God came unto the daughters of men, the ones they thought that were fair, and they produced offspring that became mighty men of renown. And one of the words for mighty men of renown is 𝗵𝗶𝗱𝗶, which is the actual Hebrew word for giant. Nowhere in there is there angels coming from heaven doing all that. In the New Testament, the term sons of God refers to humans. In Genesis, it refers to humans as well. However, this is where everything went awry. In the 5th century BC, when the Jews came into contact with the Babylonian libraries, they saw these amazing pre-flood histories, and they composed their book of Genesis. This is the first time in history that anyone ever said anything that a giant is the result of an offspring of angels and humans. Because in the historical record, even older texts from Sanchuniathon, all the way, all the writings of Hesiod, we find out in the histories of the Titans. There's my 200-pound Rottweiler.
No, that's cool.
Somebody's out there. So hey, so anyway, the oldest traditions say that we began gigantic, and then the vapor canopy collapsed. And when the vapor canopy collapsed, the flood of Noah, it was the day the sky fell, also called the Typhon flood in ancient records. When that happened, the Titans, their next generation, were giants. This is the historical record. Then this is way before the Jews came in, built their whole cosmology on angels and all that. Then it said, then the texts go on and to say within 2 generations, the giants had babies. Their sons and daughters were normal-sized humans. So in the days of Semiramis and Nimrod, who are famous in ancient times, and Nimrod's mentioned in the book of Genesis, this is 350 years after the Great Flood, in their time, there were titans still living in the world. There were giants in the world, a whole lot more of them, and then humans overpopulated them all. The last time that titans, giants, and humans ever worked together on a project, it is the story of the Tower of Babel. And then in a single incident, the controllers looked down and saw, behold, man has become as one of us. And there is nothing by virtue of imagination he will never be able to accomplish. So they instantly smote humankind with some type of weird programming that altered their ability to communicate, and they could never finish the project. The project wasn't in Babylon. That's where the story became famous in the Amorite syllabaries. The actual story is ancient Egypt, and the construction project they were never able to finish was the Great Pyramid. The chief cornerstone had never been laid on it, which would have been massive. It would have been thousands of tons. The chief cornerstone is huge. It'd be 46 feet at the base. It would be 35 feet north to south. So that much stone, no one can build a crane in the world today that can lift that and take it over the whole 755-foot length of the pyramid to put it on top. It's just too much weight. So but this project was never finished, and all these people.
So you're saying the pyramids were never finished?
The Great Pyramid was never finished.
Okay.
Yeah, it never had a top stone. It was always flat on the top. It was never completed. So this is when it became a religious symbol, like Jesus was the chief cornerstone, the stone the builders rejected, the head of the corner. This is where the Christian mysteries borrowed into all that. But I digress. The story of the angels having sex with the daughters of men is an interpolation. It was done by Jewish scribes, but the older Hebrew records found in the book of Jasher are very clear. They're humans. It was the rulers of the individual tribes that were having sex with the daughters of men of other tribes. And because it was 2 different races and 2 different cultures, the history was preserved by the invaded. And the invaded considered the invaders to be very tall, advanced, and they couldn't fight back. So they had to give up their daughters in exchange for what the Book of Enoch lists as a whole bunch of technological advances.
So you're saying that these beings that came onto the daughters were not from other planets. They are what? Deities? They are what? They are
in the archaic
programs that were inserted into the. Go ahead.
I'm gonna tell you right now. My own community knows the answer to this because I've got whole data sets on it. This event that's described in Genesis was right after a major cataclysm, and the race that appeared came from underground. And they were very tall, they had very long beards, they had technology, and there's no way to oppose them, but they were all male. They were all male. So when they came to the surface and built a walled structure, the locals called it an Eden. And they figured that the inside of it was a paradise because all the fruits, vegetables, foods, weapons, tools, everything that the outsiders on the surface who were barely making it as Neolithic hunter-gatherers, on the inside of the walls of these walled enclosures called Edens, paradise. Paradise means walled garden. This is the story of the Garden of Eden. All these females were allowed to go in and out. No males were allowed to go in there unless there were the original males from the underworld who had come up. These underworlders were almost translucent. They were almost so white they were blue, but they had long beards and they wore these funny hats, and they're all over the Sumerian release and Sumerian bus. In every instance, this is one thing I wanted to talk to about ancient aliens proponents. It says, you want to talk about aliens and UFOs, but in every incident in the art of the Sumerian people, when they showed the Anunnaki, the Anuna, when they show them, they're always tall guys with long beards.
Yeah, enormous.
Always.
Yeah.
And in the Sumerians, they're just humans. And the Sumerians are hairless people. They can't grow facial hair. In over hundreds of years, the ability to have a beard made you a ruler. It meant you were dragon-faced. And this is what the earliest Chinese traditions claim. They say the Dragon Kings ruled before the flood. After the flood, the Dragon Kings were dispersed. But when you ask the Chinese scholars, well, what is a Dragon King? Oh, these were tall kings that had long beards. They were dragon-faced. What is dragon-faced? Oh, dragon-faced means you had the ability to rule. You had a beard. That's why our dragons in China have beards. Like, wow, that's incredible. That's amazing. And then you find out from the Chinese scholars that, oh, we have similarities in the 3rd millennium BC with only 2 other cultures. Proto-Chinese symbols are exact duplicates of Proto-Sumerian and Proto-Hieroglyphic. Also, they're all people who can't grow facial hair. They were all people of short stature and olive skinned. All 3 peoples were black-eyed with straight black hair. And they all had the same writing symbols developed at the same time, and they had the same traditions. And it was of these foreigners. After 1,000 years or so into their history, once these Anuna were gone from the great dispersal of all languages, the pharaohs borrowed into that symbolism. This is why you see Egyptian pharaohs with wooden beards. They wanted to borrow the authority of the so-called gods, but they weren't gods. They were just guys. There's no difference than what happened in 1942, 43, 44, and 45 when the U.S. Army occupied many islands in Pacifica and against the Japanese in World War II. The local islanders had never come into contact with these B-52s, these cargo freighters, these drop ships, crates, and parachutes coming down. And this thing that anthropologists call cargo cults was born. A cargo cult is when a very primitive culture comes in contact with an advanced culture. They don't understand what's going on. They don't understand why there's a guy on a long strip waving 2 light sticks, and then all of a sudden something comes down from the sky, and then out of the belly of that object come all kinds of good things that the locals find out are t-shirts and cigarettes and cigars and matchbooks and gas lanterns, and that the local GIs give them these good things out of goodwill because the troops were told to get along with the locals during the war. So They don't know. All they see is these are gods. They're doing things. They've got dragons dropping down from the sky. It's called cargo cult phenomenon. And I'm telling you now, David, the entire history of the 3rd and 2nd millennium in all our
cargo cult
is cargo cult repackaged in frames of reference that are primitive by the people who didn't understand what they were seeing. Once you apply cargo cult to the stories of the ancient world, every bit of it makes sense. Just like the book of Jasher has no gods in it that came and had sex with the daughters of men. It has humans. They were the rulers. They were the toughest, biggest, baddest rulers from another culture. And they came in and they took the daughters of men by force. And the offspring of the daughters of men became a whole new race, a hybrid race between the locals and these invaders from the underworld. This new race.
You're saying these have all come from the underworld, not outer space.
They did not come from that. No, they came from the 𝗵𝗲. In the Sumerian records, that's the Great Deep. The Great Deep was a place that 𝗫𝗏𝗏 and 𝗫𝗏ti and different goddesses, in order to bring things from the underworld, they had to go through these gates to get there.
So
There
hold
was
on.
always
So
an
we could
exchange of
say
information.
that there's levels to this. Just like when I look up at the sky, I see a blue sky. You're saying that's an ocean, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then below us is an ocean. In between there's probably some hollow. So is this a hollow earth, or is there levels to everything? There's just
Oh, look,
levels.
it's super easy to answer. Okay, we live on a very thin skin. From the highest place that a man can stand is almost 6 miles, the tallest mountain in the world. The deepest place in the world is not accessible to humans, but we know what it is. It's the Marianas Trench. It's about 6 miles. So the biosphere is actually about a 2-mile strip where all humans are. This biosphere, high up in the mountains, about 2 miles before it's too uncomfortable to live. And then at 2 miles depth in different areas of the world, it's possible to live in super deep areas, like the Dead Sea in Israel, or what is it in California, the desert in California, that's the Death Valley.
Death
So
Valley.
we have a very thin biosphere, but it's not that way in the underworld. If the oceans are only 6 miles deep, and yet we've already tunneled 40, 50, and 60 miles with oil wells and drilling, and it's just solid basalt, rhyolite, and granite going down, then that means that there's hundreds of times more real estate beneath us than on the surface. Because on the surface, we can only go in 2 dimensions. We can only go in 2 different ways. Who cares if we can build a 100-story building? That's nothing compared to the underworld. We can build 1,000 cities pancaked on top of each other and put a half a mile between each one of them, seal the ingresses and egresses to each one of those 1,000 cities, would never even know another one existed.
So if it says as above, so below, which you're saying, you're stating as well to me, from my understanding, as above, so below, and it's the same, why couldn't beings come from the top as well? Why couldn't beings that vibrate maybe at a higher frequency come from there, come from above and come down? And those would be the angelic ones or the angels. I don't know.
Okay, I'm not saying, okay, David, let's be clear. I'm not saying that higher dimensional beings or even humans from outside of the construct don't have a way to come in here. There is an Adjustment Bureau Men in Black type police force. Even Charles Fort 100 years ago, after going over 500 years of scientific reports and eyewitness accounts, he concluded. I have all Charles Fort's books are up here. I don't know where, but I got them. I got the
I
whole.
believe. Trust me, I
Here it is
believe.
right here. These are the complete works. This is the complete works of Charles Fort. And in the Book of the Damned, after going a lifetime, going through all these reports, he said, I can conclude nothing other than the fact that there is an occult police force that is operating in our world. And it always provides answers that are just good enough to throw off the trail. It doesn't spend a lot of energy trying to show us, try to make excuses for why we see what we see. It just throws just enough out to where.
So the truth sandwiched by lies.
Yes, yes. So I'm not denying that there's no beings or come. I'm not denying the existence of angels. I'm not denying any of that. What I'm saying as a historian that goes strictly by the data, we don't have anywhere in the historical record with that scenario. That was a Jewish created scenario, and a whole bunch of people copied it after. But before Genesis was composed in the 5th century, there's not a single reference to angels having sex with human women. It was always environmental conditions that created titans and giants. And we know scientifically that's accurate, because in 1902, 2 scientists grew 2 inches each, just being in contact with the Mount Pelée, a volcano that had just exploded and killed 45,000 to 60,000 people in a minute. So they were there to research the volcano, and while they were in contact with that ambient radiation, they noticed that insects were growing huge. Just right after the explosion, the plants came back super fast. So they made a study of it, and they were there for about 6 months, and they both grew. These men were 58 years old and 61, and they grew 2 inches. And in a historical record,
Did it
we
reverse
find out
aging at all, or was it just growth?
it was just they just grew bigger. They just grew
Okay.
big, taller and bigger. So this is what we have in the historical record. In the historical record, we have volcanism. If anything is true in geology, It's that volcanoes have been with us from the beginning. And in ancient times, volcanism was a thing. The god Vulcan was revered and feared because there was always volcanic activity. It's not like today when we have volcanoes sporadically every once in a while. Back then, volcanoes were a constant activity all over the world. In ancient texts, the burning mountain, even the whole story of Moses on Mount Sinai is the story of a volcano. He's up there at the top of the burning bush, and at the top of the mountain, he receives the law. Many ancient religions started on a volcano. These were places that were considered very sacred.
And the UFOs come in and out of volcanoes.
Yes, they do, and that's also the research of Charles Fort, who documents many instances, but even more so. This is the source book project. This whole stack, you can't see it right here, but this is the source book project. It's a stack about this high. It's nothing but scientific reports. It's compiled by William Corliss, and I share these on my channel all the time. And he documents UAPs coming in and out of volcanoes all the time. Not coming in and out of the atmosphere, coming in and out of volcanoes, going into mountain ranges, going into the ocean. He even documents when U.S. naval vehicles had their radar tripped and they started following objects that were moving faster in the water than is capable.
So you're saying that these are going into another whole realm of existence, so like another level of another whole Earth exists below us type thing, another whole reality.
I need to clarify
something. Or
they
dig underground bases.
I need to clarify something because I should have clarified this. My own community is familiar with this, but yeah, they're not occupied. That's a part of the PSYOP. These aren't saucers. These aren't UFOs. There's no entities inside of them and all that. No, this is absolutely 100% a technological phenomenon. There are operation centers in the underworld, and they use a technology that requires a rangefinder. These things that you see that move erratically and that can't be catched and can't be and that disappear and reappear, it's because somebody far away is using this as a
like a drone, and they're probably flying them with consciousness.
Exactly, it is a rangefinder, and the reason we know this is because of what it does. Many times, these rangefinders are absolutely accurate over two areas of the world. One of them is the Bermuda Triangle. One of them is the Devil's Triangle off the Sea of Japan. What they do, people have actually documented what they've seen. They have seen these UFOs. They get right in front of a Cessna, and then it's like a dimensional envelope opens, and the Cessna can't get out the way fast enough. And once it goes into the rangefinder's field, that's when it can be taken straight to the underworld, gone. Out of the air, just like that. There have been pilots that have described these and they have gotten away from them, but they could see inside them when it was going on. We have accounts of people seeing what looked like the inside of hangars in the middle of the sky, and they just avoid them. And we're talking about pure technology here.
So is this when you say the underworld, is this also referred to as hell?
In the north,
how would we?
Okay, in the Norse concept, which is a reflection of basically all Indo-Iranian peoples, going from Iran, India, all the Hurrian peoples, the Indo-Iranian peoples that spread over most of the world. In that cosmology, they did have like an Asgard, a heavenly realm that was above, and then they had Midgard, where you and I are. You and I are in Midgard. Asgard's is only accessible by going over like the Sinvat Bridge, going over the Rainbow Bridge, going over Heimdall's Bridge. So there is one single access, but it's like the ladder of heaven. It may be a pyramid. This is the way it's described a lot. So that's the only way to get to Asgard out of the construct. Now, this mirrors the Egyptian Book of the Dead and the coffin ossuaries in the text of ancient Egypt that describe the ladder of Set and the Gate of Rostal, which was always in the kingdom of Seker, which is Saqqara, Egypt. Gate of Rostal was the Great Pyramid. Herodotus said the whole complex to get out of this reality is underneath the Great Pyramid complex. It's a huge labyrinth where it's specifically designed to get you lost if you did not enter it already knowing the secret of how to get through the kingdom of Seker to get to the Gate of Rostal, where you would literally be propelled out of this reality. You would be going to your star, whatever that means in the Egyptian Book of the Dead. So Asgard is a place that's inaccessible at present unless you go to a certain area and know what you're supposed to do. Midgard is where you and I live. Then there's Nephilim, the underworld, and part of that is the hell. This is far older than Christianity. Although the original hell is H-E-L. The Christians added an L to it. But hell was the underworld. And in the underworld, there is an area that is occupied by the Black Elves. And the Black Elves are they're a dark offshoot of humanity. But this is in the Norse traditions, and but the Norse traditions are merely just scratching the surface to the older Indo-Iranian faith. But yeah, you're right. Hell is the underworld. It's exactly what it is in the Sumerian text. Anytime gods or goddesses needed to get like the tablets of destinies, they needed to get something to save people that was going on the surface, they always had to pass through the 9 gates or the 12 gates to get through to the subterranean Absu, to get the relief, get the help, get the tablets of destinies, and then bring them up back to the surface. In the Sumerian records, there is no exchange between heaven and earth. All the exchanges in the Sumerian text are between earth and the underworld.
Do you think, and now this is just an honest question from me, do you think part of the simulation theory we live in acts kind of like this? And let me explain. Do you think that, like, when I look back at and I watch, folks, everyone knows on my channel that I watch a lot of trail cams. I watch a lot of videos where glitches in the matrix happen. Somebody will be driving and then all of a sudden a deer just appears out of nowhere. Like it didn't run across nothing. It just appeared, like just being like there's some kind of weird type of glitches happening in our reality where someone will just appear. A car will appear, hit somebody that was not there. You do not see the car driving on camera. It just appears, boom, hit somebody or something like that. And then my mind goes to the electron, the double split experiment when these electrons knew they were being observed. Does our reality work this way? Does the simulation theory, does this kind of help kind of punctuate this in the sense that anything that we look at or we observe can change on us? So if we are observing space and someone believes in that, could that be a reality for that person? Just like the person that's observing the flat earth sees the flat earth. So that's the truth to them. It becomes more and more and more magnified, amplified, and real. So we're all really creating our own reality. And we cannot mix and match because we all see different things because it's creating that for us. So if I believe in aliens on other planets, that is my truth and my existence. It's real to me and it does exist. If you believe in them being demonic fallen angels, it's your truth reality. That's your reality that exists. Does the simulation field work that way? That it's programs within programs within programs that can create upon itself?
Okay, I'm going to tell you no.
Sense at all?
I'm going to tell you no. I'm going to tell you why.
Well, did I make sense though? Did that question make any
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely. I follow every bit of that. I understand.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you no. I'm going to tell you why. It has always been my message that we live in a perceived reality, not a real reality. Simulation theory has many different aspects, but my version is based off just my research and my personal conclusions. So in my version, we're immortal beings and we are experiencing something because we are the prodigal sons. We are specifically here to mess up, to learn, to do all kinds of things that in the real reality would be offensive. But in here, it's in a quarantine. It's a contained. The parables of Jesus are on point. They're absolutely on point because he spoke the truth through deception. Because that's the type of world we live in. Not one of those parables was true. None of them.
So when Jesus was crucified and died, and he went down to hell to preach, he went down to the underworld.
That's the story. That's the story. I mean, I don't want to really get into the particulars of the Jesus.
Yeah. I'm just sorry. I'm just rambling. Whatever question pops in my mind, I like to shoot
it
out.
Let me finish this. You asked something very deep. So
okay.
living in a perceived reality, not an actual reality, means that the construct has the necessary apparatus to feed to you the very data that you've invested your faith in. And because it's holographic, two different paradigms that are merely perceived can coexist without contact. You and I can have. You and I can have totally different belief systems, but it doesn't mean that your belief created that reality. It creates data that feeds you what you think is true. It doesn't mean if 10,000 people started believing that space is absolutely real and the sky is not a holographic field, and that there are other planets, and that we actually sent a satellite out in 1974 and it's still sending us signals back, and they still believe this, that doesn't mean they can create that and it's going to become a part. The construct has rules. I've explained this many times. Dogs are canine, cats are feline. If you throw a brick up in the sky, it's going to fall down. There are coding protocols that we all agree to. There are constants that we all agree to. If you've been cut across your face, you know that hurt like hell, and you had to go through reconstructive surgery and all that stuff. There are consequences. There are things that are very true. If you get cut, you will bleed. It will also stop you from fighting. Listen, I've been attacked by bladed weapons too, right there in the back. I feel you, but we both can agree we were in pain after the shock wore off, and we can both agree that it's a terrible experience. You don't want to experience it again. So I would much rather fight a man fist to fist, even if he beat the shit out of me, than ever go up against a knife, because a knife does damage that a fist fight, it's way beyond. Fist fights over within seconds. So listen, there are constants, David, that we all agree to. And then there are perceived realities where our opinions are interjecting a reality for us, where we disagree with people. But those disagreements don't attach those constants. The constants are real. If I go 110 miles an hour on my motorcycle and I hit anything with a 15-degree pitch, I'm going to leave the ground for a little while, and my stomach's going to go up in my neck, and I'm probably going to panic, and get off my bike, because I've done it before. That's it. Nothing's ever going to change about that. When you go a certain speed and you hit a pitch, you're going to go leave the ground. These constants are necessary because they ground us. In a perceived reality, it shows that we're in a fixed medium. This means many things are fixed. And when you start studying ancient history, you realize, damn, there's patterns, cycles, epicycles. They have predictive value, and it allows people like me to make all these predictions that are baffling people. Like, how do you do that? How do you know that 2 years in advance? It's because it's not prophecy, it's programming. When we identify the particulars of our reality as constants as opposed to opinions, then we can see what's real and what's imagined. But you're asking me if we can build the space and all that. I don't think that. No, we can build. Listen, we can change our world, but we can't change the world. The construct is fixed. Just like the book of Revelation is not prophecy. It is programming. It's a playbook. And that's what the elite are going by.
So when someone gets a telescope and looks out into outer space and sees other planets, what are we looking at here?
Okay, well, I kind of have a problem with that, because all I've ever seen was oscillating fields of light. Now, NASA shows
me too, by the way. I'm with you on that.
NASA shows me some beautiful, all kinds of things. But when you come to find out, there's only like 18 different large observatories in the entire world, and you got to have a security clearance to even go look at them. You can't go sit up under them. Yeah, man, it kind of makes you wonder. And the Vatican has this huge telescope in Arizona, and it's like, what's the deal?
Why would they invest in all that if they were looking at just nothing?
Oh, I'm going to tell you why. Because the sky is very informative. It's very informative. It doesn't have to be physical and real. It contains information. I am not an astrologer, but I've always told my community that, listen, there's value in astrology, because you're not doing anything but decoding the programming that's there. It says, and the ancients affixed names to the stars. When you find out the translations of those names in those star patterns that we call constellations, it tells stories. And I have revealed many of those stories about the Phoenix histories and the Phoenix phenomenon on my own channel. So the sky does have information in there, but the entire sky is also deceiving us into believing that we're living in a heliocentric model. That everything, that just because the moon and the sun are around, we automatically assume that our world is round. I don't believe we live in the flat Earth model that I see all the time. And I don't believe we live on a globe. If we lived on a globe, NASA would have never been necessary. The greatest deceitful intelligence apparatus that's ever been designed to put out thousands of videos, all CGI, try to get us to believe in a world that we don't we don't really live in. In 1957, NASA was only founded because of what the U.S. military found in Operation Fishbowl, found in Operation High Jump. And we realized, damn, there's perimeters on our world. We can only go so far out. So they tried to go up, and they realized, damn, we can only go so far up. So NASA was created to create this whole
illusion.
idea. Illusion. Yeah, it's a magician. It is, they're being magicians. So yeah, I believe, David, that you can build your world for you and those in your immediate environment. You can change the whole trajectory of their lives.
But there's parameters.
There's always parameters. There's always parameters.
And there's physics that we have to live by.
Damn right. There are rules, and those rules will never be broken. Those rules we all have to go by. But in the highly individualized experience, we can do great things in the construct, and the construct will even help us. But when we try to do things like alter the construct, the worst thing that a person can do, and there's people that hate me for saying this, David. There's people that hate me for saying it, but they can't provide evidence contrary. The worst thing that you can do is try to save the world, because it automatically sends signals to the construct that the world is inferior, and that it needs to control better. It needs to put its designs on you to corral you better, because that's what it's designed to do. Dungeon programming is to get you.
That makes sense.
It's designed to get you, corral you into a belief system, because at our baseline, makes a lot of sense. At our baseline, the construct is merely trying for the conservation of energy. It does not have an endless amount of energy. So to get you and me and a whole bunch of other people to believe into this paradigm here, that paradigm's programming has already been designed. It's on a feedback loop. The more humans that participate in that feedback loop fuel that paradigm. Now it's reusing their energy, their life force, and their intellect, and it's self-perpetuating. And hundreds of millions of people have bought into this bullshit right here, so the construct can focus on something else and build a world over here for these people and keep everybody as separated as possible, believing in these paradigms. And the worst thing for the construct is an original free thinker who builds their own world. Because initially it will try to corral you into these different areas, but when you resist it and you just keep doing what you want to do, and you break all the rules, all the social norms, defy all the programming, then it will start helping you, as it's helped me. It helped me
too.
It helped me do exactly what I needed to do, because I just kept pushing forward no matter how much hatred, how much vitriol, how many attacks. I didn't care. I push, and now love life. I love life. But I'm also, just like you, I'm a man on a mission. I got a message. And my message is get out of that dungeon programming. The idea that you need to save the world puts you in a position as an adversary with the construct. And the construct is going to continually make your life a living hell, because basically you're not minding your business. You're here to grow. You're here to acquire whatever spiritual things that you need to acquire between your walk with the Oversoul. You are here to practice being a co-creator. You're in a magical medium that allows you, as a spiritual being, borrowing part of the construct to build your own world. So if you fall for dungeon programming and defy that gift, then you basically get what you have coming, which is slavery.
We'll end it there. This was epic, as always. 𝗂𝗓𝗓, thank you for joining me. But one last question here.
Sure.
We have to abide by these physics, but obviously what we're seeing with these UFOs or whatever's coming into our existence, they don't. They are materializing, dematerializing whatever beings are coming with them that are these grays or whatever that are part of this outside program, correct? That are coming in to manage or engineer this program. Could you say, like, why did they not have to abide by our physics?
Okay, check this out. The Philadelphia experiment was our embryonic attempt to mimic a technology that provided us invisibility. All right. That's what the Philadelphia experiment was about. You remember the ship, and when the ship reappeared, they had not taken into consideration that the ship is going to reappear somewhere else because the water was moving. So when the ship reappeared, every single person who was on the ship was still in the original position. They were still stuck in time,
And they were stuck into the
yeah,
ship, and
they were still in the original position that they were when the experiment began. When they terminated the experiment and the invisibility brought the ship back, the ship was slightly in a different position, and all those men,
that's why Cameron Duncan and 𝗬𝗃𝗱𝗲 survived and went somewhere else, because they jumped off the ship.
that's it. That's
That
it.
would
The
make
ship,
sense.
a bunch of them died because their bodies were enmeshed in the steel of the ship. It was horrifying. So this now the reason I'm bringing up the Philadelphia experiment is because if that's true, that far back 50 years ago we were already experimenting with that, then that means someone else has probably already perfected that technology
Long time ago.
long time ago.
Jason, thank you so much for joining me, man. I love talking to you, bro. Let's do another show soon. Where can people find you?
Arcades.com. That's it.
Wow. Thank you, Jason. Let's keep in touch, brother, and I'll bring you on again in about a month.
I'm cool with that. Holler at you.
All right. You're awesome, brother. Thank you so much, Jason. Folks, archaics.com. Get over there. Check it out. This guy's a wealth of knowledge, and I love talking to this man. It's always blows my mind, brother. Thank you so much, Jason. God bless.
Later.